Hi, my name is Lindsay and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this crocheted amigurumi don't care bear. If you enjoy content like this, please make sure to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find the written supply list that you'll need in order to complete this project. You can make this bear with any sort of worsted acrylic yarn. I like using the light sage because it kind of goes with the weed theme. Now for the leaf and the nose, I would only use cotton yarn. The detail comes through a lot better with this sort of yarn. And then if you have any questions on any other sort of supplies, please reach out in the comments. You will begin with your white yarn. We are going to start with the inner ears. The first step, you will want your 3.5mm hook, and we are going to create a magic ring. You will then 6 single crochet into the magic ring, and then chain 1, pull your tail, and then fasten off your work and cut. You will then want to repeat the same step for the other inner ear. So you will create a magic ring, 6 single crochet, chain 1, pull your tail, and then fasten off your work and cut. After you complete your second inner ear, you will then set these to the side for the assembly portion. Now you will create the muzzle for the bear, so you will want to create a magic ring or a magic circle, and then you will want to single crochet 6 times into the magic circle and pull your tail tight to secure. You will now increase in each stitch. Here is where I show you actually how to tuck the tail behind your work, so you don't have to sew it in at the end. You do not have to do this if you prefer to sew your tail of your magic ring in, but you will increase in each stitch until you have a total stitch count of 12. Now for some reason I did not use a stitch marker on this process, but my stitch count is officially 12, so we are starting row 3 now. For this row you will single crochet into the next stitch and then increase into the next stitch. You will then single crochet into the next stitch and repeat that increase all the way around until you have a total stitch count of 18. Go ahead and pull that tail to secure. Now for row 4, we are going to single crochet all around 18 times. Once you've reached 18 stitches, you will then slip stitch into the next stitch. Leave a tail about 10 inches long enough to where you can sew the muzzle to your bear's face. Fasten off your work and cut the tail and pull that through. We are now going to begin with the tummy circle. So take your white yarn yet again and make a magic ring, and then you are going to want to single crochet 6 times into the magic ring. Pull your tails to secure. You will then increase in each stitch until you reach a total stitch count of 12. And apparently here's where I decided that it was time to use a stitch marker because I was forgetting to use one. So for row 3, we are going to single crochet into the next stitch and increase into the next stitch. And then we will repeat that all the way around until you reach a total count of 18 stitches. Move your stitch marker up. We will then single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, and increase into the next stitch. And we will repeat that all the way around until you reach a total count of 24 stitches. Move your stitch marker up, grab more yarn. So for the next row, we are going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches and then an increase for a total stitch count of 30 stitches. Move your stitch marker up. For the next row, we will go ahead and single crochet into the next 4 stitches and then increase into that 5th stitch. We will repeat that all the way around until we reach a total stitch count of 36 stitches. I was struggling so bad here today, you guys. I have arthritis and it was like negative, I don't know, whatever the hell, 17. So if I screw up, that is why. Alright, we're going to move our stitch marker up. For this next row, we are going to single crochet all the way around, so your stitch count will remain the same at 36. Move your stitch marker up. For this final row, we are going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches. You will then increase into that 6th stitch, and your total stitch count at the end should be 42. Once you reach your stitch count, go ahead and slip stitch into the final stitch. Leave a tail long enough to be able to sew your tummy circle onto the bear's body. Remove your stitch marker and form your circle and set to the side for assembly. Here's where you will get your olive green cotton yarn and create a magic ring or a magic circle. We're going to be making the marijuana leaf, so you will want to single crochet into that magic circle a total of 7 times and then pull your tail tight. Slip stitch into the first chain on the magic ring, and then you will chain 5. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, single crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the next chain, and single crochet into the last remaining chain. You will then slip stitch into the next stitch on the magic ring and chain 7. You will then slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, single crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the next, double crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the next chain, and single crochet into the last remaining chain. You will then slip stitch into the next stitch on the magic ring. You will then chain 9. Slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next chain, single crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next chain, double crochet into the next, treble crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, and single crochet into the next. You will then slip stitch into the next stitch on the magic ring. You will then chain 11. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next stitch, single crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, double crochet into the next, treble crochet into the next, excuse me, treble crochet into the next, double crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, and single crochet in the last remaining, and slip stitch into the next stitch on the magic ring. You will then chain 9, and this will begin the other side of our leaf. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next chain, single crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, double crochet into the next, treble crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, and single crochet into the last remaining, and go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch on the magic ring. You will then chain 7. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, single crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet into the next, and single crochet into the last, and slip stitch into the next stitch off the magic circle, and chain 5. Slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, single crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, and single crochet into the next. Now for the stem that we're getting ready to begin, it's kind of tricky. You're actually going to enter through the bottom of this first leaf right here. And I know it seems weird, but it helps shape the leaf. But once you enter, you're going to chain 5, and then you're going to slip stitch back up the stem 4 times. Now to finish off your work, you are going to want to slip stitch into that next stitch right here that I show you. Go ahead and chain 1, fasten off your work, leave a tail long enough. We are going to sew this to the bare tummy circle. I actually glue the leaves to mine. I just kind of extra secure this, but if you just want to sew this completely onto your bear, you're gonna want a longer tail for each leaf, so your call. For the bear's nose, we're going to use the olive green, and this is the only part where we will use our 3mm hook. Everything else will be done with the 3.5. I don't disclose that in the beginning of the video. I probably should, but go ahead and make a slip knot with your olive green yarn, and you're going to want to chain 4. After you complete your 4th chain, you will then slip stitch into that first chain stitch that you created, and then chain 3. You will then single crochet into the middle of the circle that you just created. I try to show you here, it's kind of tight because I'm using a 3mm hook, but go ahead and single crochet back into that center circle. Make sure to keep your tail to the left, so whenever you pull your tail, it'll tighten your heart nose. Do that single crochet 3 times into the circle. After you complete the 3 single crochets, you will then double crochet twice back into that center circle. Chain 3, and then slip stitch back into that center circle. After I complete this slip stitch, I kind of pull it tight so the tip of the heart forms, and then you'll want to chain 3 again. You will then double crochet back into that center circle twice. You will then single crochet 3 times back into that center circle, to finish out your heart. You will slip stitch to complete your work into the first chain that you created whenever you made your chain 3. I show you how to do this here, but then I'll show you how to shape your heart. I actually don't chain 1 to fasten off my work here because it makes a weird bump at the bottom of the nose, so just go ahead and cut your yarn and pull that out. Leave a tail long enough for weaving in your end. And here it is complete. We are now finished with the olive green and the white yarn in the video if you want to set it to the side. Now make sure to switch back to your 3.5mm hook. You will now need your light green sage acrylic yarn. Go ahead and create a magic ring, and then you will want to single crochet into the magic ring a total of 4 times and pull your tail tight. You will then single crochet 3 times in each stitch for the next 3 stitches for a total stitch count of 9. You will skip this stitch and you will single crochet into the next 9 stitches. I skipped that stitch because it helps shape the bottom of the bear's ear when we tie it onto the head, and you'll see why whenever that process happens during assembly. Chain 1, fasten off your work. Leave a tail long enough for making a couple of knots whenever we tie it to the bear's head. But if you can see that shape, that is exactly what we were going for when we skipped that stitch. So we actually need 2 ears, so go ahead and create another magic ring and single crochet into that magic ring a total of 4 times. Three single crochet into the next 3 stitches for a total stitch count of 9. Skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next 9 stitches. Chain 1 and fasten off your work. And here are your 2 ears. Go ahead and set those to the side. You're going to need them in just a minute. We are now going to begin crocheting your bear's head. So go ahead and create another magic ring, and you're going to single crochet into that magic ring a total of 6 times and pull your tail tight. You will then increase in each stitch until you reach a total stitch count of 12. I do tuck the tail because it does help whenever you tie the bear's hair on and secure it. It keeps it tighter. So whatever you prefer. If you want to sew in to secure your tail, do that. If you want to tuck it behind your work and pull your tail tighter to secure so you don't have to sew, do that. Whatever you're comfortable with. Just increase until your stitch count is 12. Okay, and I'm going to pull that tail one more time just to secure and place a stitch marker. For this next row, we are going to single crochet into the next stitch and then increase into the next stitch. We will repeat that pattern around until we reach a total stitch count of 18. Move your stitch marker up. For the next row, we are going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches and then increase. We will repeat that pattern around until we reach a total stitch count of 24. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we will single crochet into the next 3 stitches and then increase into the next stitch. We will repeat that pattern all the way around until you reach a total stitch count of 30. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we will single crochet into the next 4 stitches and then increase. We will repeat that pattern around until we reach a total stitch count of 36 stitches. Move your stitch marker up. We will then single crochet into the next 5 stitches and increase. We will repeat that pattern all the way around until we reach a final stitch count of 42. So as I'm getting to the end of this row, I just wanted to let you know that after I move my stitch marker up, I actually crochet the next 5 rows off camera. It's just single crochet of 42 all the way around until you reach row 12, and then I'll pick the camera back up and we'll crochet together again. Okay, I went ahead and completed my 12 rows. I'm just counting up here to make sure that I am getting ready to start row 13. So for row 13, we will actually single crochet into the next 6 stitches, and then we will do an increase and repeat that pattern all the way around until you get to a final stitch count of 48. Move your stitch marker up. You will then single crochet into the next 7 stitches and then complete an increase, and you will repeat that all the way around until you end up with a total stitch count of 54. Move your stitch marker up. You will then single crochet all the way around for the next 3 rows. You'll have a total stitch count of 54. I'm going to actually crochet this off camera, and then I will pick you guys back up at row 18. Okay, I just finished the row up, so I'm going to move my stitch marker up. For row 18, we are going to do 7 single crochet, and then we will start our decreases of single crochet 2 together, which will be an invisible decrease in the front loops only. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we are going to be doing 4 single crochet and then an invisible decrease. Your stitch count will be 40 at the end of this row. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we are going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches and then single crochet 2 together, or an invisible decrease. We will repeat that all the way around until we reach a total stitch count of 32. As I'm finishing up the last remaining row here, I'm actually going to pull my hook out because we are going to insert the eyes and ears, so on the droopy eyelids and the red. So let's go ahead and do that. Turn your bear to where the stitch markers are in the back, and it's more, I guess, we're just trying to form the front of the bear's face. You'll need to grab your 14mm amigurumi eyes, and you're going to want to count down from the top 12 rows, and you will insert your eyes in between row, I guess 12 and 13, where you did the increase, where you did the 6 single crochet and then the increase. So you will actually insert these eyes 8 spaces apart. So there you see me counting the 8 spaces apart. Do you see kind of right there where I'm inserting that first one where the increase occurred? That is exactly where you want to insert your eye, and then you will count over 8, either right or left, it doesn't matter, and insert the other eye and then fasten. Once the eyes are secure, you will fold your bear in half with the eyes facing towards you, and then you will grab one of the bear's ears. Make sure you are attaching the back tail to your darning needle. We're going to start with that on both of the ears. Starting from the center, you're going to count down 7 rows and insert your first ear in between rows 7 and 8 in the middle. You will then attach the front tail to your darning needle, and we are going to insert 1 row down and forward into the bear's head. Pull this tail through until you feel no give. You'll then turn your bear's head inside out so you can secure the tails. I tie these about 3 times. Go ahead and refold your bear's head and attach your darning needle to the back tail of the other ear. Count down 7 rows and insert your tail in between rows 7 and 8. Make sure your ears are even before you pull this all the way through. You will now attach the other tail to your darning needle, and you will insert your tail 1 row up and 1 stitch forward. And then go ahead and pull the tail all the way through and flip your bear's head back inside out and secure by tying 3 times. Now we are going to begin sewing on the droopy eyelids, so you'll go ahead and attach quite a long piece of string to your darning needle. We are going to feed these through both eyes at least 3 times, so you want to make sure it's a long enough string, or you can use 2 pieces of string, whichever you prefer. You will insert your needle from the inside of the bear's head in between rows 12 and 13 and pull all the way through. Don't pull your yarn all the way through because we're going to need to secure that, but you're going to want to go over your bear's eye and up 1 row and insert back into the bear's head to create the first eyelid. And it should look like this. You will want to repeat this step 2 more times, and then we will tie the strings to secure. Make sure to tie at least 2 to 3 times to secure. I don't do these super tight because I don't want the, eyelid to go behind the eye, because if you do pull that too tight, it will go right behind that amigurumi eye. So your eye should look like this. Now you'll want to grab your darning needle with the string on it and repeat this step for the other eye. We're now going to do the hazy red stoned eyes, so go ahead and attach a piece of cherry red yarn onto your darning needle, and you're actually going to insert in between row 12 and 13, right where you inserted the green yarn. You're going to bring that yarn up, and then you're just going to bring it back down 1 row and bring it back into the bear's head, and then we're going to tie and secure. Go ahead and repeat this step for the other eye, and then we will turn the bear's head inside out to secure and tie both red strings. Make sure when you tie these, you're not tying these too tight because you don't want the yarn to pull under the eye, and then cut the excess as close to the knot as possible without obviously cutting the knot. Sometimes the red can show through the stitching if you put too much polyfill in, so just be wary of that. Your bear should be looking real Willie Nelson-ish right about now. We are now going to complete the last 2 rows, so go ahead and reinsert your crochet hook. For row 21, we will now single crochet twice and then do a single crochet 2 together or invisible decrease. You'll repeat that around until your stitch count is 24. Move your stitch marker up. For row 22, we are going to single crochet and then single crochet 2 together and repeat that around until we have a total of 16 stitches. Now I don't do a chain 1 here, I just kind of cut a tail long enough to sew the bear's head onto the bear's body and just fasten it off. Whenever I used to do a chain 1, it would create a bump and I didn't like it, so I quit doing it because I tie it to the bear's body, so it really doesn't matter. So now we're going to stuff the bear's head. Make sure to add a lot in those cheeks. We are now going to begin with the body, so grab your sage green yarn and create a magic circle. You will then 6 single crochet into the magic circle and pull your tail. Pull your tail to secure, and then you will increase in each stitch until you reach a total stitch count of 12. Go ahead and tuck your tail in as well. And place your stitch marker. For row 3, we are going to do a single crochet and an increase and repeat that around until we have a total count of 18. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we are going to be doing 2 single crochet and then an increase until your stitch count reaches 24. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we will be doing 3 single crochet and an increase and repeat that all the way around until we reach a total stitch count of 30. Move your stitch marker up. For this next row, we will be doing 4 single crochet and an increase and repeat that around until you have a total stitch count of 36. Move your stitch marker up. For row 7 through 19, you will single crochet all around for a total count of 36 stitches. I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. So here's what the body should be looking like after row 19. I'm going to go ahead and finish this row up and move the stitch marker and begin row 20. So for this row, we will begin our decreases. So we'll do 4 single crochet and then a single crochet 2 together. And then we will repeat that all the way around until we end up with a final stitch count of 30. Move your stitch marker up. You will then do a 3 single crochet and then a single crochet 2 together. Repeat that around until you have a count of 24. Once you complete this row, go ahead and move your stitch marker up and grab some polyfill, and we are going to begin to stuff the body of your bear. Once you have a decent amount of polyfill in there without overstuffing, go ahead and reattach your hook, and we are going to complete the final row, which is row 22. You will single crochet and then single crochet 2 together and repeat that around until you have a final stitch count of 16. Once you've completed, go ahead and fasten off your work and pull out your stitch marker. Then go ahead and fill the rest of your bear's body up with polyfill. Alright, now you will want to take the tail of your bear's head, attach it to your darning needle, and we are actually going to match it up to the tail of the bear's body, stitch to stitch. So I'm going to show you where you're going to insert in here. And go ahead and feed that all the way through until there is no give between the bear's head and body. And you will want to tie that together and secure that at least twice. I know this probably isn't the best or right way to do it. This is just how I do it, so the son of a bitch's head doesn't fall apart. I then take the tail from the bear's body and kind of stuff it in the middle of the polyfill so it stays secure. Make sure if there's any polyfill that's sticking out, you'll constantly be wanting to push that back in. I have done this with less polyfill just to make it easier, and the bear's head just kind of flops. So this I found is to be kind of the perfect happy medium amount. You just kind of have to deal with a little bit so the head's not bopping around like a bobblehead up there. So now you're going to want to sew the bear's head using the whip stitch method. I do this in the front loops only. I will pull it closer so you can see, but yep, that is, we're going to go all the way around, so it's a total of 16 stitches. Once you've come to your 16th stitch, you're going to want to secure your tail at least 4 to 5 times. Here's where I take a piece of excess yarn and I do 3 strands across the center first round and make the bear's hair. So watch me do that so you can see. I know it's kind of hard to pick up and see in camera, but it's really just 3 strands across the top, and we're going to cut it down to 1 inch and then fray it with the darning needle. I make sure to tie each strand at least twice. The last one, sometimes I tie 3 times, but if it seems secure, twice will do just fine. Now from here, you'll grab all 6 strands of hair and your scissors and cut them all down to the same length, about at 3/4 to 1 inch across. And then you take your darning needle and just separate the hair fibers. You can also kind of make it more bushy if you want it to be more frizzy. I just like the curly Q look. We are now going to begin the bear's arms. Go ahead and grab your light sage green yarn and create a magic circle. You are then going to crochet 6 times into the magic circle. You will now increase in each stitch until you reach a final stitch count of 12. I went back to not using the stitch marker again, but for the next row you will single crochet into the next stitch and then increase into the next stitch until you have a total stitch count of 18. And about here is where I remember to use the stitch marker again. I usually don't use them, I just count in my head because I seriously could make these in my sleep. So I'm really sorry for forgetting these, and if it just throws people off, I am so sorry. But anyway, so the next row after you get your 18 count is you're going to do a few more rows of the single crochet 18 all the way around until you get to row 7. Go ahead and move your stitch marker up once you've completed row 6. For row 7, we are now going to single crochet and then single crochet 2 together and repeat that around until we have a final count of 12 stitches. Move your stitch marker up. Go ahead and single crochet all around 12 times. After you complete this row, remove your crochet hook and take a pinch of polyfill and stuff the base of your bear's arm. Do not overstuff this. Once you have it looking about like that, go ahead and reinsert your hook, move your stitch marker, and then for the next 6 rows, it is actually single crochet all around until you have a total stitch count of 12. I did the rest off camera at this point. Okay, I'm back here. Once you get to your final stitch count of 12 in row 14, go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch. We are now going to start with the legs, so go ahead and take your sage yarn and create a magic circle. You guys, I had no idea this was going to be so blurry. I apologize, but anyway, you are going to do 8 single crochet into the magic circle and pull your tail close. You will now increase in each stitch, bringing your total stitch count to 16. For the next few rows, you're actually going to single crochet all around for 16. So I'm going to get this blurry hot mess off the screen, and I will be back once I get it together here. After you complete your final stitch count of 16 on row 12, you will then slip stitch into the next stitch and leave a tail long enough for sewing. After you complete 2 legs, go ahead and take some polyfill and stuff the bear's legs about 3/4 of the way full. You want to make sure that you're able to pinch at the bottom because this will help you when you're sewing the legs onto the bear's body. Take your white tummy circle and attach your darning needle in the center magic ring circle and weave that in and secure and cut the tail and fasten off. You will then reattach your darning needle to the outside tail, the longer tail that you kept for sewing, and do an invisible close. You will now place your tummy circle directly in the center of your bear. Make sure it's in between the eyes. Feel free to use sewing pins to secure while you're completing this process. And this is how I sew it. I come up, I go across 2 stitches, I go around. It probably isn't the most secure way to do it, but whenever I finish up, I'll show you how it looks when it's complete. It just looks so clean. So if you know of a better way or a different way that you like doing it, feel free to do that if you like that method for sewing 2 pieces together. I'm just showing you how I, do my bears, so. Alright, I went ahead and went around the circle, so now I am just finishing up securing the tummy circle. I go through and I just kind of feed the tail through just so it's secure so nothing comes undone. And then I cut off the excess. And once you've completed your tummy circle, this should be how it looks. You will now take your bear's muzzle and go ahead and weave in and cut the center tail of the muzzle to secure. You will now attach the other tail to your darning needle and do an invisible close. You'll now flip the muzzle into a cone shape and take a pinch of polyfill. Do not overstuff this, and then you will secure it to the bear's face. Make sure the top part of the muzzle lines up in between rows 12 and 13. You can use sewing pins to secure your muzzle. And then begin sewing the bear's muzzle onto the face the same method that you sewed on the tummy circle all the way around. Go ahead and secure the tail, remove the sewing pins, and cut. You will now attach the darning needle to the tail of your bear's arms, and you're going to sew both of them 2 rows down from the bear's neck. We will now begin attaching the bear's legs, so go ahead and take the tail and attach it to your darning needle and do an invisible close. Once I have attached the darning needle, I pinch my bear's legs. It really doesn't matter where you sew the bear's legs on, as long as the rows are even and everything looks good once you get both of them on. So you can use sewing pins to secure in order to do this process. So I'm just going to more or less show you how to do it, and you can just follow along. Before you start sewing on your other bear leg, just make sure everything's even before you set those pins. I have sewed them on crooked before, so just double check your work before you complete everything. Once you have the legs sewn on, we're now going to complete the marijuana leaf assembly. So go ahead and take your darning needle and weave in the back tail for that magic circle into the project and cut it off. You will now take your leaf and line it in the middle of the tummy circle with the longest leaf in the middle directly between the bear's eyes, and go ahead and secure these with sewing pins. Now here is where I attach the darning needle to the longer tail, and I just sew through the middle of the leaf to secure. This is what I do before I actually hot glue the leaves down. If you want to sew through every single stitch, by all means, I understand. I just make about 20 of these a week in mass production, so I think I'd lose my freaking mind if I took the time to go through every single one. So whatever you feel comfortable doing, just make sure you leave a longer tail when you're making your leaf for this process if you decide to sew. Other than that, I'm just going to show you the glue method. And this is where I begin to glue. I start with the stem. Do not add a ton of glue on this, it will protrude, so just keep in mind that less is more with this step. And go ahead and glue the next 2 leaves down. And then for the top leaf, I only hot glue halfway up the center, and I make sure that it is centered first, put it down, and then I do the rest of the leaf. Now we are going to begin by taking the nose and the darning needle and securing the back tail for the magic circle. So here is actually where you could secure your bear's nose down with some pins and sew it on if you choose to do so. I am actually not going to do that. I'm going to remove the pins and sew the tail into the back of the bear's nose, and I'm also going to hot glue that sucker on as well. Burnt the crap out of my finger right here. And let me go ahead and place and readjust here. I then center and place the nose directly after that first row. You have a few moments to kind of shape it and get it where you need it to go before the glue dries. And if you made it this far into the tutorial, I thank you. This is actually the last pieces we are going to be working with. So what you're going to do is attach your darning needle to the tails of these inner ears, and you're going to weave those into the back of the ears. Whenever it is time to assemble the rest of these, I flip the bear's ear inside out and then put a small glob of hot glue. Do you see how I'm flipping the bear's ears up and down? Whenever I stabilize the bear's ear is actually going to lay down more towards the head. So when you put the inner ear on, first and foremost, make sure you're attaching the back to the inside of the inner ear. And then go ahead and add your glue and then press the back of the inner ear into the exterior ear and make sure the outside kind of wraps around that white circle-ish area. We are now going to be repeating the same steps for the other ear. So I'm going to flip my ear out. Do you see how I'm kind of flipping it down towards the bear's head? That is actually where the ear is going to lay once I stabilize it. So here I am putting the glue on, and I'm getting ready to attach my inner ear and then wrap that around. And then the next step and final step will be stabilizing the ears. Now grab your hot glue gun. We are going to go ahead and put just a small dab at the very bottom of that left ear at the top, because we're going to push it into the bear's head so it stays closer and the ears are a lot more even and they're not just, I don't know, do you see how the other one is? I don't want it like that. So I'm just stabilizing the ears and making them even. And once that glue has dried, we'll actually do the other ear, but whenever you put the dab of glue, you're going to do it on the bottom and then press it to the bottom of the bear's head. Do you see how this kind of evens them up here? And then I just push them in until they're completely and fully dry. And it's complete. Isn't it just the cutest thing you've ever seen? You guys, this tutorial has been 1.5 years in the making. If you have followed me since then and been waiting on this, I appreciate you more than you know, just for taking the time to watch this. Here's the bear with a little bong I made for it. I thought it was freaking cute. But anyway, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much and have a great day.